Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new in classic Trek. Forget anything you might have heard about the mycelial plane. I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. Hey, Paul, I was thinking, you know what we need to do? We need to fix the captain of this podcast if we really want to fly.
And we could do that by just adhering to the three main principles of universe: space, time, Paul.
Paul. Welcome, Clyde and Paul. We are tonight talking about episodes 9, 10, and 11 of season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy.
Wait, how about 12? Are we doing 9, 10, 11, 12?
We're just doing 9, 10, 11.
Oh, I thought we were doing 4 episodes.
I thought we were doing 12.
Oh, well, I did 3.
Okay.
Wow.
And if we were doing 4, that's my bad. But I posted 9 through 11 as what we were talking about. So that's what we'll talk about tonight, because that's what was advertised.
Okay, fair enough.
I forgot we were doing 4 at a time.
No worries.
It's been a long week. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay.
Never mind the mycelial plane. Everything you heard about the mycelial plane.
I did 3 last week, so it works out.
Does it?
No, you try.
It'll be fine. We'll do 4 episodes next week. I'll remember to do it that way. Yeah. Anyway, a few reminders, because apparently we all need them. I need reminders. I need so many reminders. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist in my brain. But Paul, what are places people can find reminders and notes and things like that about our show?
Hey, maybe you could subscribe to our podcast at Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And once again, here is our weekly beg for money. If you are loving our content and would like to support us in any way, consider joining our Patreon for just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod. I know I said support us anyway, but I meant money.
Oh, money. And I know
Platinum. God, I had the chance. I missed it.
You missed it, Paul. Too late.
Too
slow. Yes, and we do live stream. So if you ever want to hang out with us during the week, it's Thursdays, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern, which I know is late, but I'm sure some of y'all are some night birds. It's a Thursday. Thursday is the new Friday. And if you're hanging out with us in the chat, Clyde, how can people talk to us? Tell us that they want our attention in the chat, because people are chit-chatting away in there, but maybe they're like, hey, we want y'all to pay attention to what we're saying.
Just turn your microphones on and go beep, 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 beep.
And a Murph signal, Murph signal, if you will.
It's kind of a Murph's code, kind of like a switch between Murph and Morse. No, seriously though,
we're really doing it. Great.
I was trying. Look, they can't all be gold. I'm just saying they can't all be gold.
They all can't be platinum.
There you go. Seriously though, if you want to interact with us live, just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital Pod in the chat, and we'll take a look at your comment, your question, your musing, your ramblings, and then in a moment when we really want to know what you thought about this particular episodes or these episodes, type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we'll take a look at what you're thinking if you're live.
Indeed, and we will do those things. Before we dive into our hot freaks, I wanted to share some messages from the menagerie, which is something if you are a patron and you're like, hey, I want to hear my thoughts on the podcast as well, but I can't stay up this late or time zones don't work out. You can just let us know in the Slack what you think about upcoming episodes. So we have from Karen. Okay, these 3 episodes are so fantastic. See, 3 episodes. They knew. I'm just in awe at their choices. Wesley is fantastic and Will does a great job. He is a little bit more manic than he was as a kid, but time travel might do that to you. And I may not be a Beltran fan, but I am a Chakotay fan, and he does not disappoint. Beltran does a good job. They held no punches when it came to Adric, and that was so sad. I could write a book, but I'll just post this. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
And with that, I think it is time for us to have some hot freaks. It's time for some hot freaks. Paul, what did you think about these 3
Paul.
episodes? Yeah, you're Paul.
I really like the 3 episodes. The 4th one really brings it up to get focuses everything. Like I don't even
I'm
understand
so excited to watch it
how you
next
can even
week.
talk about these 3 without the anyway. Yes, I thought they were great. Um I think this season they're doing better with the serial episodes versus the episodics. Like like I feel like the serials they really know what they want or they're really spending the time or whatever. I was not an anti Wesley Crusher person watching TNG. Uh, as Wesley made his appearances, like say in Picard and stuff like that, I became less of a Wesley Crusher fan. Pretty much because I think Wesley Crusher is a different character than Will Wheaton, and I think like Will Wheaton probably a little more Will Wheaton than I would like in my Star Trek. And in this episode, I think he was still very Will Wheaton, but in a very fun way. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. Very it felt very Whovian, very Doctor Who
Yeah,
to me.
yep. Because that's the word.
And we can talk about that. But Clyde, what's your hot freak?
So I hadn't watched episode 8, and you're curious about what I might think about episode 8.
Yeah.
By the time I watched 8, which I thought was a fantastic episode, by the time I watched 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, my thought was this isn't a kids show anymore. This isn't for whatever demographic it was. It's not. This is a legitimate show. There are all these Easter eggs where they talk about things like the mycelial network. They talk about mirror verses,
Kelvin verse.
Yeah, they're talking about like time travel, like they're explaining time travel. But the Adric, like it's one thing to mention that a character died, but they showed his skull, right? They showed his dead body, and I was like, yo, this is not a kids show. This is an animated series. And it feels like to me, for the first time, they've really it found its footing. I think that Dahl actually works with an older mentor like a Chakotay in tow. Like his behavior and his like it made sense. Like he really made sense for like the first time for me. And I was actually in shock, and I had to actually shock and doll. But I actually had to stop myself from going on to episode 13.
Yeah, me too. I feel the same way.
Like I started and was like, nope, don't do it. Like I had to stop myself. I'm a little shocked. Like this series it's even better than I thought it was, and it does feel like it's hitting on all cylinders, and I'm hoping that Netflix like keeps it going.
Yeah, I would really love to see it continue. I agree with y'all. I really liked this series of episodes. I think I don't mind the very Whovian aspect to the traveler, and I mean it's so Whovian coded that I'm like, bring them together. Go with it. I'm here for it. To me, the Wesley storyline was the most kid part, and it felt kid appropriate, and like you are performing for a kids show. And yeah, I thought it was like very complex and very like beautifully made. The creature, the loom, scary. The loom are scary.
It's real scary. Like
but I'm really into it.
They're really scared on Scary and Edge Tomorrow too.
And the Matrix. But yeah, I guess we can just jump into the Devourer of all things part 1 and 2. But I was like, wow, we had so much death even in this first episode. We lose a red shirt who then is just like disappeared. Like how sad. It was like really intense. But I really love the design of the like kind of pyramid style thing. It felt like we were hitting a lot of the standard sci-fi tropes in those first 2 episodes, right? We have the big desert planet with the big like pyramid thing that you have to find the one thing. Lots of techno babble within there, but I really enjoy the loom, but it was quite the exposition dump from Wesley that I wonder, to me, if
Who we get.
non-Trekkies
Yeah.
follow. Yeah.
I mean, I one of the things that I liked, and I don't talk about this very often, is they did a very good job with scale. Like, you know, like in their production design of the ziggurat, where you go like, oh, this is big and but accessible. It look, and you know, they said it out loud. You go like, oh, it looks like it's made from pieces of the future and the past. And I go like, oh, I can see that. And so they really did a good job of creating the environment for that. And the reveal of Wesley was like, oh, well, I didn't see that coming.
No, did not see that.
Like that was very, very low on the list as far as like not existent on the list as. So I thought that was worthwhile, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah, I did get spoiled from the internet about Wesley being in the show, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just saw like, some screenshots of it. So I'd been kind of waiting to see when and where. So when it did happen this week, it was it made sense I thought the grand theme of the plot, and I was glad we were finally really like rip roaring into this mid-season kind of finale, because in a traditional, order, we would be waiting a couple of months before we got the next set. But
Yeah.
And man, I'd be on the edge of my seat if I was having to wait for where we leave off with that like kind of longing look of Chakotay looking off into middle distance. But what did you think of the idea? I feel like essentially the loom have now become a bit of our big bads, right? They're the things we're running away from, and they're running towards trying to fix the timeline. But we still have this looming, if you will, from the loom, but this looming presence as well, though, of like of Gwyn's father and like what's her name, who's voiced by Jamila Essentia. We have kind of this like subset of big bads that have kind of been pushed off to the side, and we haven't seen them come back around. And so in the scale of things, do you think we should be more worried about Essentia or mostly worried about the loom?
I'd say mostly worried about the loom. I feel like there's been a switch here. I think right around episode maybe 6, there was this. Again, I have no knowledge at all, and I'm probably wrong, but it almost felt like someone in the room said, "You know what? Let's make the show we want to make. Let's stop trying to be a bunch of adults trying to make this kids show. Let's make the show we want." And so Essentia and the Diviner felt to me like that's your kid big bad, right? Essentia's gonna lose. She's gonna lose. She looks like the big bad. She's not that scary. She's gonna lose, right? The Diviner that we've seen, he is a lot of bark, but he feels defanged. He mostly feels like a hurt person, right? Grieving. But the loom, I mean, the minute that they tried to go through the shield, I mean, not try, the minute that they were like, shields to maximum, and that thing went through it like it wasn't standing there, that should terrify you at that point. Or even before that, when they're shooting the phasers at it and nothing's happening, like
but
this is the best.
They still keep on doing it.
They still keep on doing it. I have no idea why they kept doing it.
What else are you gonna do?
Run. The answer is to run.
Run. I'm with Paul 100%. You just run. At this point, drop the phaser and just run, because it's just slowing you down. Like that is that, and they look scary. Yeah, that's the big bad for me.
I see it as Game of Thrones. I see it as like Night King and Cersei. And so like, and ultimately I feel like first of all, like, aside, I feel like Game of Thrones ended wrong. I think
what a controversial opinion.
hang on like it yes, wild card. I think the correct answer was basically they fight Cersei first. And they all use up all their all their resources, and then the Night King comes in and kills everyone and freezes Westeros. Because that, to me, that's the moral of the story. It's like, like you could say that the the what are they called again? Something walkers, night
The
walkers,
White Walkers.
the White Walkers is like climate change, and rather than deal with climate change, you wind up like bickering over things that don't matter. My hot take. Sorry about that, but like I feel like the Loom are going to be like that. We're gonna fight Essentia and stuff like that, and all that stuff, and then the Loom is gonna come in, and either they're gonna join forces, or more likely they're gonna fix the timeline right before the Loom eats Gwen.
That would be, yeah. That would probably be what.
That's my guess. Without cheating. Without cheating.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. I am excited to see Majal kind of with our group as well, and how she needed to be a part of the seven in order for them to make the correct timeline. I did also really like all of the time portal jumps in these episodes. But what did y'all think of our jump into sort of our 1960s office space?
I think that's great. I thought it was a good shout out to that one Star Trek episode with Gary Seven, where like that was supposed to be like a spin-off episode, like they're gonna do a show
Supervisor Gary,
and that didn't happen, but like I would have watched that.
It's Assignment Earth, which also included the Beta 5 computer that they're kind of like watching everything on.
Beautiful, yeah. So like I would have watched that pilot, that show, but like no one asked me.
It definitely felt like I was thinking, man, it's like Star Trek meets an animated version of Mad Men. I was just like, wow, like it was kind of cool. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was the vibes between Majal and Zero.
Yes.
Like, it's been there for a while, right?
I mean, I guess, but I feel like now that she's seen them in their like corporeal form, like she's very smitten vibes.
I mean, we talked before about like, are we, do we want a platonic relationship? And I was very pro, like, hey, I think having strong platonic relationships are great. Yeah, that's not the vibe I'm getting now. Like the vibe I'm getting is definitely non-platonic.
Yeah, there's some heat in those side glances and those handholds, which are very cute and very like, I don't know, very kid show appropriate to be like, oh, I think I like you. I'm gonna hold your hand. It's very cute. I was very worried for a minute. I was like, man, this show's not afraid to kill people off. Are we going to get, I mean, I was like, I don't think they're going to kill off Majal, but I was like, they could.
Yeah. Like the Siege of Voyager was like rough.
The Siege of Voyager was scary. Like, also, we have to talk about like essentially Janeway's like aliens like moment of getting to
that's right. Yeah.
Take out
very Sigourney Weaver. Yes.
Very Sigourney Weaver running around in a tank top with her giant gun and into a shuttle and taking all those beasts out of there. It was intense.
Yeah. The part of me that was going like, oh, actually Janeway is equipped to deal with this. But then I go, oh, actually, that Janeway got temporarily erased. Like, there's a Voyager episode where, like, the Year of Hell, where they deal with the Kremen, and they have all, with the time weaponry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so they found a way to deal with that. But like, but this isn't that Janeway. That Janeway got
essentially eaten by a loom.
Basically, yeah. So it's like it took me a while. Like, oh, Janeway knows what to do. Why is she doing these things that she's supposed to do? She knows what to. No. Oh yeah. Whoops. Wrong Janeway.
I was trying to think. Have we ever encountered the loom before?
No.
Okay.
No. It has very much of a Matrix kind of Sentinel vibe. Meets a predator alien.
I think what we find in Star Trek is normally when there's a paradox, it is like, it's finished. We're in this paradox, and we can
Mm.
they're discrete. Whereas like we're in this like fuzzy area where Gwen is half there, half isn't, kind of blah blah blah. So
Yeah. My other question though was like, it seems like the armbands, while a way to provide some defense, isn't like foolproof because the Loom were still chasing them, right? Even though it was like, oh, we have to give everyone these things. I guess it's so that you can run away because
Yeah,
otherwise they can freeze you.
yeah, exactly. I think like I haven't graduated from the Chief O'Brien like Academy of Star Trek Engineering, but I believe what the temporal phase discriminator does is basically allow you to be in phase with the Loom's, variants, like so that their powers can't work on you, but they can still eat you.
Right.
I know anything. I
Very
could technobabble at the best. I could technobabble at the best. But
the thing that was a little confusing to me is Gwen's hollow emitter allows it just worked.
Wait,
right?
Gwen has a hollow emitter?
Well, she's got her temporal kind of
yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Stabilizer, right?
Yeah.
But for hers, like Gwen's, it's just they tried to freeze time and she's like, cool, what's going on? Everybody else has this thing where once they start to freeze time, you're now in a race to turn it on.
Sure.
That seems like a bad design to me.
I think it's a user error. I think they should just keep it on. I don't think they know.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know why
thought.
it can't be on all the time, but I'm sure there's a reason. Probably just start phasing.
Actually, you know what? It's time cancer.
Time cancer.
Speaking of time, though, one thing that's interesting is I feel like we're being prepped because they keep mentioning the temporal wars,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, are we gonna get like a temporal war movie series?
Well, I wonder if there's any connection to, because we don't know anything about the plot to the Section 31 movie. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there was something to do with the temporal wars, since it was so set up in Discovery as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried, because I was like, wow, we're hearing that again. They're referencing it like, oh, you should know it. And I'm thinking, we don't yet, but we will.
Oh, yeah.
We will.
I don't know. All I know is Wesley didn't do anything with temporal war.
I mean,
otherwise
I
there
think
would be a temporal war.
Well, I mean, what it sounded like was it was pretty, significant casualties for the travelers. So
for those who tried to intervene, perhaps it was pretty crazy. Anything else about these first two episodes, the Devourer of All Things Part 1 and 2? I mean, it was very action packed. It was a lot of exposition, a lot of catch up of essentially Wesley leaving clues for everyone. Who would you, if it wasn't Wesley who came out through that portal, of any other Trek characters that could have made an appearance, who else would have been interesting for you?
Anyone else? No, I'm
damn.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just, if you're listening, Will Whedon, listen, I don't want the smoke. I do not want that smoke. I'm gonna go with the obvious choice. Q would have been fun, because
that would have been pretty fun.
That would have been an interesting person.
Love me some John Delancey.
Can never get enough of John. So
I would have been okay with, I would have been okay.
It would have been interesting.
I would have been okay with anything new, something that we hadn't seen before. If I think
I got my answer.
Oh, do you have your answer?
Well, first, Stu beat all of us to the correct answer, which is peanut hamper.
Stu.
You know what's impressive
Snaps
about
for
that?
Stu.
That means for Stu to say that means that Stu's a real listener. Stu gets that means Stu's been there for a while. Great job, Stu. Way to jump in there and hit the long time running kind of joke.
You know who I would have been excited about?
I'm waiting for you to say Lore. I've been waiting for you to say Lore for a while.
Lore is, here's the answer. You ready? Admiral Janeway. Not our Admiral Janeway.
from
like
another. Oh, the one that went through the other paradox.
exact,
Yeah.
exactly. So like because that Janeway like doesn't have problems screwing around with the timeline. so,
It could have been interesting.
so
Um,
I mean
yeah.
I mean, Barkley.
I was going to say Michelle Yeoh as a tie-in for Section
I
31.
thought about that one.
Oh, that would
Yeah.
actually that'd be very interesting. Like to show to go outside of this realm of people that
Yeah, especially because they made a reference with the
Uh-huh.
mycelial network, and then they're like, "Oh, we were told we can't talk about that back
like
in the 23rd century."
I would say if it was Empress Giorgio,
Oh my god!
it mind blown. Like there'll be pieces on the wall of my brain.
That would have been good. You know who I would have liked actually?
What's that?
Oh,
Stamets.
Stamets would have been fun.
No,
I will honestly say I would have liked Stamets more than Wesley.
I think Myrriah wins it with Giorgio. I don't have. There is no other answer for me now. It
would have been a pure chaos of beauty.
Like they go like who or like a Terran,
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god,
that would have been amazing. But I would say another one that's all jokes aside, Peanut Hamper would have actually been a really interesting like character. Well, I say that because we're all tossing out real people who you animate, right?
Yeah.
But to bring in somebody from another animated show, another animated Star Trek show,
Boimler.
Or I was like, or we just let Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid be in every Star Trek series.
Yeah,
it works.
I'm happy with Wesley.
Yeah,
they become the
Wesley made sense. Yeah,
Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid should become the John Ratzenberger of Star Trek. Like they should just be in every single like property.
100%. I would love that. Forever to the moon and back. Let's go ahead and jump into the last flight of the Protostar Part 1 because I'm a little sleepy and forgot to watch Part 4. And also we didn't advertise we're talking about it, so we'll retain the spoilers so that you can continue to watch along with us. So they are marooned on Yisada, where they find a very broken and grumpy Chakotay. He's so grumpy.
He's so grumpy.
Yes.
I will say, I thought the montage of like all of the like, having to survive on the planet was like cool. But if I had to watch him scrape eggs off of those fish one more time.
Like the plasma fish?
Yeah, it just wasn't like the sound didn't, it was like, that like weird squishy sound that I was like, oh, I don't want to hear this like repeated. It's not giving me, it's not making me happy.
Like I'm trying to figure out why he didn't eat the fish, but
I mean, maybe he's eating some of the fish, but I guess it's like for sustainability of it all.
Like there's this part where like
they also might not taste good if they live in a sulfur gas cloud.
But they're
he's eating the eggs already. Yeah, the eggs are great. That's like
but like
I don't like caviar, but I don't like salmon, but I like caviar.
Like holograms Janeway goes like, but there's plenty of food. Come in. We have plenty of food. It goes like, not according to Jagote.
Well, he made the point of trying to save power, so maybe it was like, oh, I'll save on having to use the replicator. He could also just be like, I don't know, just gonna live off the land. I'm sad.
I like, yeah, I guess like it wasn't my favorite setup. It was beautiful. They did it, but like
yeah.
But
I thought the planet design was really cool.
Yeah, but they go like, oh well, what we did was we ejected the proto core and we ejected the our warp core. I go, why would you do that? Like we can
that was the ship to fly.
Well, I guess the proto. So okay, so is it in the proto core or is it just in the ship? The kind of malicious code.
It's in the computer of the ship.
Yeah, okay. Like it's underneath the bridge. It's just sitting there.
So his thought was, we maroon the ship so that no one can ever take it from this planet.
Yeah, sure.
That's the thought.
why did they have to like be their shuttlecraft? They have a 3D printer of things. They could 3D print a shuttlecraft and send the Protostar to the sun for all you know.
I mean, sending it to the sun would have probably been a good idea. I'm with Dow though. I think it was Dow. Maybe it was Jenkin. Like, why that planet? Like, of all the planets you could have ruined yourself on, you didn't want to ruin yourself on like Risa. You know what I'm saying? Like
Well,
the pleasure planet. Like that's
But
what
it's
you
supposed
do.
to be where there's no like
No,
humanoid life flight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
but
that.
if you're gonna eject the core, then what's it matter, right? It can't move.
Because who's gonna
Have
look at
some
that
fun.
on a type P planet? Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah. I did like the whole crew essentially being like, I liked Janeway being all like, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. It feels like we've known each other, which is a strange thing for a hologram to feel.
Yeah.
But I get it. And then I did like them all essentially being like, we're gonna just like do everything in our power to cheer up grumpy Chakotay. Which
also,
rightfully grumpy, lost his entire crew, went down with the ship, like so much grief to process.
Like when you say lost, like I feel like he just made a bad choice and it kind of doomed everyone to that bad choice. Like he seems pissed for choosing something that like he could have chosen a different way, and here's the thing that I don't understand. It's like, okay, what did Dahl and everyone say that made him change his mind?
Well, I think it was finally seeing the sacrifice that Adreek made and like getting closure on Adreek.
Well, and I think it's that, and that he saw that Adreek was able to come up with the antimatter, right? So it's like
he was right.
And I kind of know, like, it's easy to be mad at somebody who's just out there, right? You're like, oh, they're over there, they're having fun, like whatever. Like when you really see them as kind of gone, then it's like, oh, like it does hit you a different way. So I think he was like, look, my friend who I was mad at for leaving I got that closure, and he was right. Ultimately, he did it. He pulled it off. He sacrificed himself to prove to really do this. To stay grumpy and keep stranded feels like it would, dishonor his memory.
Yeah, I also think he finally remembered what it meant to be a captain in some ways, right? Because he's essentially been crewless for 10 years. And then having these like kids show up and essentially be like, hey, like we can actually fix this if you will believe in us. And like we believe in this so much that we're going to just like scrub solar panels until you're willing to listen to us. And then seeing like, I have a feeling it was seeing the rest of our little ragtag crew come around to save Dahl that he was like, oh, this is like what it means to be a part of a crew again. Maybe.
I guess
if it can tap into your cold heart, Paul.
I have processors that have been programmed to assimilate this information and and provide an appropriate emotional response. So maybe that sounds. I thought it was just Dahl going like, oh, the computer is not a problem anymore. The Federation has solved it.
But that was so early in the episode,
and so that's what I don't. That's why I really just don't get. Here you are. You're the captain of the crew, and all of a sudden you go, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna maroon everyone.
Well, there wasn't anyone else on the ship but him and Adreek.
Sure. And you go like, okay, so we're gonna maroon us.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere along the line, Adreek goes like, whoops, that was a mistake. Right? That's what he had to do in order to go like, okay, let me see if I can find some antimatter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he was like, if I can find some antimatter, we can at least power, to your point, the giant 3D printer and print something to get us off of this godforsaken place.
Or a cheesesteak. If we can just power the ship, then maybe it's not so bad. I don't have to eat fish eggs and I can eat a nice Philly cheesesteak or an Italian beef sandwich. Or,
all these things are very true. Basically, it's just making me go like you choosing to do this, Chakotay, seems like I don't trust your judgment.
What makes you say that?
Well, like, just the choosing of marooning yourselves. Like, don't misunderstand me. I understand. I understand going like, oh, we can't get back to the Federation. But truth be told, like there are many ways that they could have just gone, hey, I'm here, send it through, like,
Well, no, as soon as they made contact with the Federation, right?
I
Like
know
that was the whole thing with the weapon.
that's why you just go to some Klingons and go, hey, tell the Federation, blah 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 blah, that we're alive and blah
But
blah
you
blah.
think the Klingons would be like, why are you having us talk through
Oh,
you? You have access to a weapon and now we want that weapon?
Well, like my response is like, yes, maybe not the Klingons, but there are tons of people in Star Trek is big.
Right.
So like there are tons of people you could go to. You could go to the Ferengi. You could pay them in Latin. I don't know. But like, there it just seems to be another way. I understand that it was a very cinematic way of putting it together. And I don't resent the storytelling. What I resent is like the justification of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have been totally fine if like we wound up crashing and we've been stuck here. I'll be totally fine with that. Like, but like, we went through the portal, the wormhole, something happened, we crashed here. It was probably for the best. And, I have no problem with that. But to put the rationale up there to give this extra bit, like makes me go like, oh, now I'm pulling at those threads. That's it. But like, what do I know? Like, he just seemed like grumpy old patriarch.
I'll be interested in. I might do a rewatch because I wonder if it was more like Adric was like, oh, we could use this power to get us out of here, but to leave the ship. But then he did say like, but Adric had a plan all along and it required sailing the ship first. So I don't.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. Like this is where like it's an emotional episode.
Yeah.
It's designed to be that way. So like I'm not faulting it so much.
And well, I wonder if that was like part of why Chakotay was feeling so guilty was because essentially him and Adric were in conflict of how to deal with the ship. And so Chakotay might have been like, I'm the captain, we're ejecting these things and we're crashing the ship. And then Adric is like, maybe finally talked him into being like, I think we have to go back and find like a way to disarm this weapon. And Adric's like, I'm going to find a way to power the ship, blah, blah, blah. They have an argument, like, I'd be interested in flashback,
Yeah. Me too. Maybe it's in episode 12 or maybe not.
I don't know. I did like the worm sand tunnel chase.
The Beetlejuice?
Yeah, the Beetlejuice sandworms was fun.
That was impressive.
Plasma Beetlejuice is great. I love him.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like a lot of the Easter eggs, and I learned this one from Tom Paris, and like that, like, and that we say Beetlejuice. Again, there's 1,000 reasons why I look at this and I'm like, this is not a kid's show anymore, because these references feel like they are definitely targeted to us.
But I think so many kids programming is made that way. Like, I think that's part of that is so that parents are like, this is fine to have on because I also enjoy this. But there's things that go over like specific age groups, like heads in some ways. Cause like most kids programming is also required to have like essentially like an education consultant to be like, is this something that is going to help children? Like
there's a lot of non-educational stuff up. Like I'm like, ugh.
But I feel like they slip it in. It's like problem solving, camaraderie, there's social emotional learning that you have to include. It's not all just like this is a math lesson or like this is Dr. Aaron. It is about like telling you and showing you how to problem solve, how to have tough conversation with friends, how to have relationships with friends. Like those are all things that are part of social emotional growth for children.
You go, Clyde.
I think I've seen kids programming evolve, right? Like there's been this is directed just at kids. There's I
used to watch Ren and Stimpy, and that for sure was not made for kids.
No.
Well, it explains a lot, though. Look at you.
Yeah. I
You know, and
watched
they're
all of the most
You're,
fucked up cartoons.
you're emotionally and mentally hideous.
Stunted.
but I do think there's a lot of cartoons that are built to say, hey, look, we want this show to be appealing to both children and adults so that they can watch together.
Like
Right.
I went to see Despicable Me with my 5-year-old nephew, and like it was me, V, my nephew, and my brother. And the second time he was watching it, and he was just having a good old time. I kept on falling asleep, and for a loud movie, that's saying something. I don't think I was that tired, but like V was just like, "Oh, this is such a clever movie to balance like what's interesting for her versus like what's interesting to the kid, because the kids aren't going to get musical cues. They're not going to get all these things that are references, but like it's not important to because
The minions serve everything.
because it works without the reference.
Mhm.
And just like like for us in this show, without the reference, it still works.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that way, I think it's good that way.
Yeah. The first time I saw something that I won't say the first time I saw it, but the first time I noticed it was really Disney's Aladdin, the original, because there's a
It
scene.
can show you the world.
Well, not that, yes, but the
But you never had a friend like me?
No. The genie comes out and he's doing a bunch of things, and one of the things he does is he does this who
Yeah,
as Arsenio Hall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he just did a reference to a late night talk show host, but this is geared toward kind of children.
Sure.
And I remember my mother laughing so hard at Aladdin because she was like, this is the first like thing you've watched that I actually could watch and not be like, why am I watching this? And so there's more of that now. I mean, parents will tell you like, my mother laughs and she was like, I need my grandchildren to come over so that I have a legitimate reason to watch Bluey. And the truth is, she's like, we all watch Bluey when the kids aren't around. Because it's just so clever. And there are all these kind of references and things that just make sense. I think Star Trek in this case is in that realm, but I looked at it and I was like, at this where they're at now, it's far too scary for my children to watch. Like my 6-year-old would have nightmares about.
It is rated 7 and up.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you.
I don't know that my 12-year-old would be that happy about it either, but like the sandworms and the loom, that stuff is scary. Like the tension is really high.
We got to toughen up some of these kids. We need our weirdos to be maintained. Okay.
I love that, Myrriah. Like you go like, none of this like pampering of children, like,
no, make
like,
them scared.
That's right.
I was watching like Night of the Living Dead. I was watching The Last Unicorn. That is a deep, dark, weird cartoon.
Intellectually and emotionally hideous.
Ren and Stimpy.
That's right.
The stuff that we watched, like, it's so interesting because I talk to parents all the time, and we joke about that. We joke about the stuff that we watched. It's you want to go, what were my parents thinking?
The Hobbit, like the original animated Hobbit. I'm sorry. I'm just like,
no, there's a bunch of them, and I think about things like
The Land Before Time, the saddest movie ever made.
It is pretty. I mean, it's a toss up between The Land Before Time and
the brave the brave little toaster.
Like, if you don't cry at the Iron Giant, you don't have a heart.
Whoops. Well,
I've never seen it, but
Superman.
There's a bunch of stuff, but I also think about like, how old was I when I watched Stripes for the first time? And I'm like, probably not old enough. Or Police Academy.
Like, I think and this is in the spirit of this, but like, I think Once Upon a Time, shows and media was basically keep up, like so the expectation was for me to like, if I'm going to enjoy this, like it was going to be up to me to be like, are you going to be able to deal with someone getting shot? If you're not, shouldn't watch it. Like, you know, there wasn't that, like, you know, like for me, one of the scariest things that I had watched, and it still like scars me to this day, is an episode of Buck Rogers in the 24th century, where it has the space vampire. And in retrospect, I watch it now and I go, this is campy and dopey as hell, you know. But like, kid me watches it and I'm going like, oh my god, this is so scary. And there's a part of my programming I go like, oh, this is real scary. Like, you know, even now I go like, ooh, like if I'm in the wrong mindset, I go like, ooh, the willies. Uh, but that was, I think, a lot of like media consumption wise, like you just had to keep up, like, you know. And so like they're as opposed to like protecting kids' feelings right now.
No. For me, it was definitely Cujo. I don't know why anyone let me see that at an early age.
But it's not like you see dogs all around.
I mean, I was terrified.
Like Clyde lives in North Hollywood, nothing but dogs.
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't watch Cujo today. Like, I'm like, there's no need for me to watch that.
I bet if you watched it, you go like, this is dopey, and at the same, there's another part of your mind goes like, fear, Cujo's real.
Yeah, there's a hard pass. I don't even want to find out.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, because I think a lot about like Rod Serling, when creating the Twilight Zone, used to say all the time, like, you should never write down to your audience. You should always write up and expect them to come along with you. And I do wonder how the algorithm and tech companies buying Hollywood has slowly changed that.
I mean, like I think people are forgetting, or they're overcorrecting or whatever. Like kids actually watch to aspire. Like an 8-year-old isn't going to watch other 8-year-olds. That's not what they want to see. They want to see 14-year-olds, because they, you know, that's something to grow into.
Yeah, it's why it's why we like read like the Boxcar Kids, or like the Babysitters Club, Goosebumps. Like, those were all like that young YA stuff, but that were about slightly older teenagers.
I would say it depends. Like, I got a 12, almost 13-year-old, and I've seen, and I have a 6-year-old, and I've seen some of it is they want to see themselves reflected in the stuff they watch. So they want to see stuff about stuff that they can relate to, things that they understand. Sure. Like, she doesn't necessarily want to see high school stuff, right? Like, she's now getting to that point. So I think there are pockets where she's starting, and her friends, they're starting to watch stuff that's slightly older. It's kind of like when you're in early middle school, you want to see kind of late middle school, early high school. Like, you can watch some of that, but for the most part, stories about people trying to get their license and dating, like, that's not where her head's at right now. And so she's more interested in about like have you considered rebooted Babysitters Clubs, where that's kind of more aligned her. She loved that show.
Well, have you considered that it might be a failure of parenting?
Probably, or a success of parenting.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds like a success.
If I can keep her away from
my mom who
90210,
listens to this, I swear I'm a totally fine human being.
That's
and thank
right.
you for letting me watch lots of
hideous,
stuff.
emotionally, mentally, like intellectually, morally.
But to that point, though, I do find that, one, the amount of choices that kids have for viewing is infinitely more than we had, right? Sure. Like they can find the stuff that really speaks to them, and it's more nuanced, and it is more, some of it's more aspirational, some of it's some of it's gotten really, really clever. And I think some of that is because you've got more writers who are thinking about the psychology of their audience than they did when we were kids. It felt like they were just trying to make us laugh, right? Like, I think about things like, Nickelodeon's Hey Dude, right? And stuff like that. I did too.
Like, for me, I just watched, like, there was once upon a time, because I'm a little older than you guys, where cartoons were really for Saturday mornings. And so, like, I would watch Super Friends and gummy bears. And
I
yeah, exactly.
Turbo Teen, some Voltron, Turbo Teen, like as an example, and we are way off the reservation here, but Turbo Teen is a cartoon about a teenage boy who, when his temperature rises too hot, turns into a Corvette. Okay,
I think
What a
that's
concept.
there's no educational value in that. That's basically Scooby Doo. Like it's
I
it's
did love
hijinks,
Scooby-Doo.
right? It's
and
hijinks.
welcome to like nostalgia talk.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
to get us back on track.
Yes.
I know y'all have pre-watched the next episode, but I'm excited to see how they managed to get the ship back up and running. I thought the burial scene for Adric was very sweet and very I thought like a really beautiful way to explain like grief, I think, in a way that is
it's appropriate for kids, for
appropriate
4-year-olds.
for kids. For above 7. It is rated for above 7.
Yeah. Look, it's to me, I'll say it, it's a hell of an episode.
Yeah. For all my complaints about it, I think it's one of the better episodes of a very good season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still just in shock because, last week, having seen the first 2 episodes, my thought was the first episode was really, really strong. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were just and 7 were just okay. And I was like I remember thinking like, oh, I've got to push through and I got to watch these episodes. And you hit between 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I'm just
hot damn.
I'm like, wow.
They're really trucking, and I think they're really nailing, I think, in this middle sequence here, an interesting and good balance between character development for me, as well as like pushing the plot forward, which I think can be difficult, but I'm seeing growth amongst our characters in different ways. And like literally for Zero, it was a full transformation, which like what an episode. To really like ground some emotional core and character development before really diving into heavy plot for 3 episodes. But the plot was moving at such a rapid and exciting pace that I didn't really mind some of the larger expedition dumps.
I agree with that.
All good.
All good. Anything else to add about these 3 eps? And next week we will watch 4 episodes.
Oh, wait, so are we gonna watch 4 eps or are we gonna watch 5 eps? Like
we'll watch 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm coming around on Commander Tysus. A bit.
Yeah, I enjoyed the way he was like so protective of Majal, and then like I also I think he's a really good number 1 for Janeway. Yeah.
So you really like how he did his job adequately?
Yeah, I liked how he did his job. But I thought it was like, he seemed like such a grump. Again, like like I was saying, it's like I think there's been interesting character development, even with our like adult B characters, essentially,
Sure.
They had a villain, kind of a B plot villain kind of feel to them, vibe to them when we first started. Like they were gonna be
like the grumpy adults.
Foil. Yeah.
Clyde just loves to call people who do their job villains, like Shaw, and like like he just loves like, oh, how come you're not giving my people privilege? Like
it's not about privilege, like because I actually agree with some of what Tysus says.
You should agree with everything Tysus says. Like he's doing just very like protocol stuff. Like it's all very.
It's just it all felt weird. Like it was very like contentious. Like she's asked them to like specifically to be on the ship, and now you treated them like, well, why are you here? Like because they were invited.
Yeah, it's proving worth, but I think even seeing how the crew reacted when they were all essentially willing to like not follow the orders as given to them by our evil Badmiral vibes.
Man, Jellicoe.
Jellicoe.
Once again, you just don't like people who like have like reasons to do things. Like, hey, I will say like Jellicoe is not my favorite.
No, he's terrible. Okay. He's terrible. He's
like glad we're all on the same page.
Even I have limits, but like but he did like defeat the Cardassians.
I guess we'll give that to him. Anything else about these episodes, y'all?
I'm good. I'm sorry. Sorry, I went to like so much into like
nostalgia talk. It's fine. There's always a small
80s
spin-off podcast within our podcast. So
that's right.
And next week on 80s Cartoon Talk, we'll be discussing the merits of Voltron versus Robotech.
Be prepared. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple. Share the show with a friend, y'all. If you have friends who are watching Prodigy and like they want to talk about it and hang out with us, like let us know. I did look and there weren't any updates on Comic-Con stuff. I think that's all sort of happening later this weekend. But we will keep y'all posted. I know our pals over at Strange New Pod are doing on the ground coverage. Giraffe already looking like a boss in her incredible cosplay. So go follow her on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, and I will try to get better at posting on Instagram because Twitter is a hellscape. And we appreciate y'all for being here tonight. We'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Whee!